It's Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. I'm your humble host, Kevin Keatsman, Podboy in the seat, ready to rock on a Tuesday. And we have some breaking news as Donald Trump has just concluded his third breakout session with reporters at the Capitol building. He's gone over to Capitol Hill today to push the big, beautiful bill and nudge some Republicans that had been waffling on this for the third time. And now it looks like he's stopping for the fourth time today in front of reporters and talking about this thing. He is claiming this saves Medicaid. That's a great line. He's kicking 1.4 million illegal aliens off Medicaid and says in doing so, he'll be able to save the program for American citizens. That is a fantastic way to approach Medicaid in the big, beautiful bill, which is the only thing really Democrats have come after him on and said it's going to kill Medicaid. He's cutting Medicaid. Yeah, for illegal aliens, he's cutting Medicaid. They'll be off the roll, and that will save Medicaid for everyone else, and that would be a very popular stance in the United States with an overwhelming majority of voters. But he just ended his third session after meeting with Republicans with a rant about Joe Biden, and he now says, I want to know who ran the auto pen. We were talking about this months ago, and it was dismissed, and nobody thought about it. If you recall, Joe Biden signed all kinds of things through what is called AutoPen. And Trump is asserting that Joe Biden had nothing to do with those signatures as president of the United States. There were people in back channels running the country, not Joe Biden. And from the tone he was just using about the AutoPen and the fact that he's talking about the AutoPen while he's trying to push the big, beautiful bill, leads me to believe that a major investigation into the Biden presidency is forthcoming. It will obviously take months, but I'm happy with Trump. My podcast today, we didn't have that information yet. When I recorded my podcast, I'm like, dude, stop talking about Springsteen getting money and Oprah and Beyonce and these other things you want to investigate. Forget that stuff. There's only one thing important right now to investigate, and that is how the deep state ran our country and not a president that the American voters thought they had elected to be the president, but clearly was not. We're just learning more and more on this. So I'm glad to hear him say that, even though it gets conflated and maybe confused with the big, beautiful bill. Okay, we'll have more on that coming up in a little bit. I didn't anticipate starting with that today, but I love the fact that he wants to find out who ran the auto pen for Joe Biden. I've got a couple other things to start with. The first is, like, I feel weird saying this to Pete, so I say it on the air. Is the guy ever off work? Like, I can't, every time I'm in my car, Pete's on 95.7. I'm listening Saturday morning. He's doing the Heartland College Sports College show. I'm listening Sunday afternoon. I went up to the National, set up the equipment. I'm driving back, and Pete's on there doing a weekend show. He's got Stacey Graves on, the police chief, talking about the arrest that they made in the street. He's like, on a Sunday, he's just on. And then I come back from the golf tournament yesterday, the outing we were at, and he's on in the afternoon doing storm updates. He's doing weather all afternoon. I'm worried about my boy, Mark. We got to get him just a little. We got to get him a little downtime, don't we? I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, he's the hardest working man in radio, I say.
He's like doing. Does he do the interviews from here on Sunday, or does he do it from home and loads them in, or how does that work?
That's a good question.
I need to get to know Pete better. I got to find out how he does this because he's a radio Houdini. Like, it's unbelievable. The guy is, of course, everywhere. Great stuff. We tip our cap to him. We start today with stay with me. I'm going to say World Cup, but don't change the channel. Okay? I'm not going to talk about the World Cup. I'm talking about Kansas City. And I've decided that the stories around KC World Cup are far more entertaining and interesting than the actual World Cup will be. And the latest has to do with Kansas Senator Jerry Moran, who within the last few weeks is introducing some legislation of something that he wants. I'm not a big Jerry Moran fan. I know some people personally that he did a great thing for privately as a United States Senator. It had to do with international relations, and I'm not going to get into it, but he did a wonderful thing. I know he's got a big heart. I know he's a good man. This is not insulting. He's just not Republican enough for me. That's all. He's just not conservative enough to be the senator from Kansas. You can call that a knock, whatever. He just isn't that guy for me. He's okay to have as a Kansas senator. And here's why. He does things like this. He's filed this bipartisan legislation with a Democrat out of Washington, because Seattle is also hosting the World Cup, not Washington, D.C., Washington State. So he's filed a bipartisan legislation that's enough money that we shouldn't be spending it, but it's not enough money to do anything. It's $50 million of federal money, $50 million. And it's for World Cup cities, including Los Angeles, which also has the Olympics. And this would come from the Federal Transportation Infrastructure Grant funding and create better transportation in the cities where the World Cup is happening. It doesn't say it's buying buses or building trains. Those are too expensive. It doesn't say exactly what it's doing. It says it's opening new routes. So it sounds like this is exits, entrances to roads, the cleaner paths. They're all saying this will last forever. We'll have a lasting benefit in Kansas City if we get this money from the transportation department. Now, there's 11 host cities. It's $50 million. So we're looking at about $4.5 million. $4.5 million in Kansas City. That's going to fix transportation. What are we going to build exactly for $4.5 million? What ramps, what bridges, what exits? What is it we're doing with this federal transportation infrastructure money in Kansas City that would help the World Cup? So this is a Republican just wanting to spend money. I'll tell you what this is. I can't prove this. This is just, Pod Boy sitting here with a microphone. This is slush fund money. That's what this is. Going out to every one of these cities. Here's a few $1 million. Let's give it to Kansas City. And, this is the opposite of cockroaches. Cockroaches are coming out under the light. They're just going to come take the money. There's going to be a free-for-all. There's $5 million floating around Kansas City. Come get some. That's what this is. To give you an example of how expensive it is to do actual infrastructure and transportation, one of the biggest projects in the Kansas City area that is beginning now, they're doing survey and engineering and closing businesses around the place, is in Olathe at I-35 in Santa Fe. Everybody knows the interchange. Everybody knows how traffic jammed up it is. It needs to be redone. This is real infrastructure. It can't stand. We're not a good enough city if that's an interstate, with a city that's growing that direction, when we have this interchange that's not workable. So they're going to redo the interchange for $200 million. They're going to do one road in Kansas City for 4 times what Jerry Moran is asking for the World Cup. This money, I hate that we just have $50 million laying around they're going to go grab, but even worse, it's going to do nothing. This is government waste at its worst. It's only $50 million. I can't believe I'm saying that. That's $1 million a state. That's $1 million. I'm sure the states could all use that $1 million somehow, or back to the taxpayers or something. But this is the kind of thing he's in on, and he's working with a Democrat to do it. And it's not enough money to do anything, folks. It's very clear to see this is just slush fund money. Slush money is great. Like the Chiefs redoing their stadium right now with this seat thing from the World Cup. Was it reported that they were short? Pete reported they were shorted like 11 to 14 million and waiting on the final payment. But I've read the total cost of what they're doing is $50 million at Arrowhead to take out the seats in the bowl and put new seats in that move in and go back so they don't lose any football games but get to have the World Cup. They have to have it done for this year because they want to make sure it's ready for next year. What do you want to bet that comes in way under $50 million? And who keeps that money? Or where does it go? Or does it go to union leaders, construction heads, members of boards of directors? There's no accounting for this stuff. I hate this part of government. I was so hopeful that DOJ is going to, and DOJ has done a lot of great work. They've exposed a lot of things. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of DOJ in the big, beautiful bill. It doesn't look like there's a lot of cutting. Trump's plan clearly is not to cut a whole lot. It's to grow revenue through jobs. He can lower taxes and grow revenues for the federal government at the same time. That's doable. I'm not arguing that. That's almost always worked with tax cuts, almost always. More jobs are created, more people are paying in, and they raise more money. But that doesn't get him down to zero income tax. I just think we need to watch every little nickel. And Senator Jerry Moran, I feel like I didn't send him to Washington, D.C. I voted for the man. I didn't send him there to take $50 million out of an infrastructure grant and slush fund it to the World Cup in Kansas City, Missouri. That's not Jerry Moran. This makes no sense for Jerry Moran to be involved in this from the state of Kansas. I mean, zero. None. What is it? Something around the Legends where they have the practice facility where the teams will practice? They got great interchanges there. We don't have traffic there or problems there. I don't know what they need for infrastructure. I don't know what they're talking about. It's broad. It's $50 million, and it sounds like it's just going to wind up in people's hands and not really account to anything. Those are the things that really bother me about government is because this is just so routine. It's so easy for them to pull off. 913-408-7957. That's 913-408-7957. I'd love to hear from you. Didn't get a chance to take a bunch of calls yesterday because we were on a remote. We had a guest. We got the full hour here today. Whatever's on your mind is on my mind. And everybody I'm talking to today, everybody I'm speaking with is talking about this Joe Biden scandal now. And who and how many people were running the White House. It's a huge scandal. That or any other topic you like. 913-408-7957. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. Great to have you with us today. Thanks for joining us on Uncanceled on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. We've got some breaking news. Mark has found here a former midfielder from Sporting Kansas City named Gadi Kinda has died at the age of 31. He was playing in Israel. He has not been in a match since the end of March when he was put in as a substitute. He has had a health condition all of April, sounds like, and the first few weeks of May here, and he has died at age 31. This is, unfortunately, not an unusual story with soccer players around the world. There have been more and more of these happening. We don't have any details, but if you ever want to go search a topic somewhere, you will find a lot of very young soccer players that have collapsed while playing soccer and had heart conditions and died. We do not know if that's what happened with Gadi Kinda. They're not releasing details of his health condition right now. Mark, he played here for 3.5, 4 years. He was here for a while.
Yeah. Solid player, too.
Man, that is just tragic. 31 years old. So it was something that just onset out of nowhere because he literally was playing soccer and a perfect age to be playing, 31, and took a leave with a health condition and has died here several weeks later after leaving the team. That's a very sad story. Our best to his family, and may he rest in peace. This is weird. This is a story I really haven't wanted to touch, but I've got to do it now. It's this trial with Sean Diddy Combs. And I know it's not a big topic here for our audience and gaining a lot of traction. And what I'm going to say is maybe a little controversial. I'm not a legal expert, and I'm not watched this closely. But they're putting out all these pictures of his girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and he beat the living daylights out of her. I mean, they're cut forehead, bruises all over her body, all kinds of public appearances with large sunglasses where her face you could see from the side was bruised up. It's horrible. Did you know there is not one charge in this case for domestic violence? The jury cannot find him guilty based on domestic violence. This is a sex trafficking case, and there's very little evidence of that. He had a bunch of wild parties where most people either showed up of their own volition or were paid to be there. There were male prostitutes, clearly. The stories and things that were coming out are horrific. This is not a good person. I'm not defending the man. Is this the right trial? Sex trafficking? There just hasn't really been any evidence of that. And then what do you do? Let's say the jury finds it the same way and they let him go and go, this guy's horrible. Then do you recharge him on domestic violence? Where do you go next? Do you have any thoughts, Mark?
Well, the only thing I can think of is from what I've read on this, like you said, it's a tough thing to dive into, but sounds like he was drugging his girlfriend to prostitute her out, which is a form of sex trafficking, I think.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's the deepest thing that they could charge him with, maybe.
And it just gets more complicated. We know in domestic situations that it's oftentimes very difficult for women to leave. It can be very, very difficult to leave. I understand that. And this is a real problem in our society. But you always ask the question, why was she voluntarily there? Why are you with him? You didn't report it to anybody until after he's busted, after all this stuff has happened. The pictures of her are horrible. I mean, she needed help. And it's equally bad that there would be this many people around that couple knowing she was getting the living daylights beat out of her and nobody was doing anything about it. That seems like that should be a crime too. But if this doesn't stick, if they don't get, I mean, they literally can't if you're a juror, you can't find him guilty for sex trafficking, for beating her, for domestic violence. That's what they're arguing. I hear your point. If they were drugging her and it's against her will, it's awful. The things that were done are terrible. There's no question he did these things. This is not, it's just all right there. There's video, there's photos, there's witnesses. There's no question. The man needs to be locked up. He needs to serve a long sentence for the things he's done to other people. I just hope they're doing this the right way because it's vile. It's absolutely vile. Dan Bongino's in a little hot water. You guys saw this. He did an interview over the weekend with Kash Patel, and he was talking about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life in Pennsylvania in July. This is the one where Thomas Crooks was the shooter. And Bongino said there's no there. We've seen all the evidence. There's no there. And people on the right are like, whoa, big fella. You used to work for the Secret Service. We don't want to hear that there's no there.
I've got the audio if you want
You
it.
got it? Let's do it. I'd love to hear that cut. This is Dan Bongino, I believe, this weekend.
Is it what you learned?
You know what, Maria? Kash is not kidding. We've been personally briefed extensively on every single detail, nugget, tendril of this case. One is actively in court right now, so out of respect for the case, it's probably more appropriate that I stay quiet on that. However, I'm not going to tell people what they want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth, and whether you like it or not is up to you. If there was a big explosive there, right, given my history as a Secret Service agent and my personal friendship as a director does with the president, give me one logical, sensible reason we would not have. If you can think of one, there isn't. In some of these cases, the there you're looking for is not there. And I know people, I get it. I understand. It's not there.
Okay, Dan Bongino, it's not there. A lot of people on the right are very upset because they say, well, he's former Secret Service. If they screwed up, he's got people he's not going to throw, under the old bus. Many conservatives are livid. They say, we don't know who Thomas Crooks was. And immediately, obviously, he died. They couldn't interview him. They shot and killed him. But then they just cremated him right away. There's no evidence of whatever happened. He got a rangefinder in that day. He flew a drone over the place 2 hours before Trump took the stage. They identified him as a suspicious person, yet he evaded officers with a rifle. And all kinds of people in the crowd saw him and videoed him running around. He climbed up on a roof 450 feet away and had a perfect shot at the president. There was a sniper from the Secret Service 40 feet away that didn't see Crooks. And again, he was pegged suspicious, and they still let Trump take the stage that day. There's a lot to this that people are like, wait a second. Now, we're always quick to say conspiracy, this or that. I don't know. He looked like a wacko kid. The other guy in Florida is even more interesting because he's got ties to Ukraine. You can't look at that and not go, wait a second, what? This guy was making trips back and forth to Ukraine. Who was funding? He hadn't worked in years. Who was funding all of this for that guy down in Florida that was crawling around in the bushes at the golf course that they spotted and found? That one's really crazy, and they could probably learn a lot about that. They don't seem interested. Trump doesn't talk about it much. I don't know whether there's going to be a lot on this as we go forward, but I think it's pretty easy to peg this all together with the left, the deep state. They were trying to jail Trump. It feels like they were trying to kill. They know they were trying to jail him. It feels like they were trying to kill him. They were trying to hurt him financially. I mean, they're doing all these things to Trump while they've got Joe Biden knowingly with cancer and dementia as the president, planning to run for re-election, and they're scheming up ways that they're going to get him a wheelchair so he can be after he wins again and what they're going to do for the next presidency. This is what those people did. Yes, it needs an investigation, a strong investigation. If you'd like to join us, give me a call, 913-408-7957. You're listening to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. I'm Kevin Keatsman. We are back in a flash. Okay, so I saw this quote from Joe Biden's COVID advisor, Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, is doing a round of interviews. He is the first person in Biden's inner circle to come out and basically have something really solid to say about all this news and what's been going on with Joe Biden. And he's essentially said, he's had cancer for a long time. Now, he was not the doctor treating Biden. He was his COVID advisor. But he believes he had it day one of the presidency. He believes he had it when he ran in 2020. and has had it for more than several years, according to Dr. Emanuel, who was working closely with Joe Biden. And my response to Dr. Emanuel, like everyone else that's going to come forward now, is where were you then? I'm of the belief that these people knew. I don't think it's something you keep secret around the office. I've worked in a lot of places. I've never known anybody that kept cancer secret for 8 years. I don't know that person. There's time down. There's things you can't do. There's canceled trips. There's canceled meetings. They're canceled for this. And you get to know somebody who's in treatment. When you've been getting treatment, it's overwhelming. It is your life. And I'm going to stand by what I said yesterday. I think we're going to find out that the Biden White House was basically like a hospital. It was like an emergency room 24/7. That there was medical attention on this president round the clock, out of sight, but everybody there knew it. And nobody said anything. And now they're going to come forward and say, well, the doctors are saying they had this for a long time. And I don't know. How would I know he had cancer? This is an easy one to lie about and get away with it. To say you didn't know that he had cancer, unless somebody recorded you in a meeting where you were telling someone else that you knew. That's really the only way, is to get recorded. But this is the game that they're playing now. And I just think they're all jockeying for their position in the party and to keep power in some way. And none of this is working, as the big, beautiful bill is running through the Capitol and I think is going to get signed into law. We'll see. There's still some Republicans that are going to be no votes here. And then it has to go to the Senate, obviously, before it gets to Trump. We have a new poll, which I love. This is the Harvard-Harris poll. I find absolute symbolism in this. Donald Trump is currently defeating Harvard. He previously defeated Harris. So I love this. And this is a poll that he's going to like a lot. And it's just out. For the first time in 4 years, a majority of Americans say the economy is strong. 51-49. Almost the entire Trump presidency, it was a positive rating. The economy is strong. Now we're at 51-49. To put this into perspective, the week of the election, back in November, it was 64-36, thought the economy was weak. So they voted. People have now changed their mind. It's 15 points it's swung. Well, 30 actually, but 15 in each direction. From 64-36 weak economy to 51-49 strong economy. And on the day that Trump was inaugurated, it was 59-41. So it didn't move much after the election, but it has moved a lot since January 20th. It was 59-41. His first 4 months in office have been remarkable for the psyche of the American people who love what's going on with the economy, and they think it is moving in the right direction. So that's just tremendous polling news. I mean, really, really, really good, solid polling news. We love that story. I also like this story. You know, there was the big story of Alcatraz last week that we talked about. Trump wants to reopen Alcatraz. Apparently, in France, they're seeing the same thing and in the same mood. They've got crime problems there. They've got drug cartels, and they've got they've got international terrorists, Muslim terrorists in France in a very serious way. So they have announced that they're going to reopen the Devil's Island prison, which is in a South American jungle of French Guiana. This prison was opened from 1852 to 1954 and housed 80,000 of the world's worst criminals. France rounded them up. Nobody left. You went there and you died. That's how it worked. There was no escaping. It's on a giant cliff. There's no getting out of there. So they saw Trump with Alcatraz. They're like, let's reopen this thing. And they're saying they're going to send their drug traffickers and Muslim terrorists. This is the prison that was made famous in the film Papillon with Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman. There was a remake of it. I think Rami Malek was in it a few years ago. But it's probably more famous globally as a prison than Alcatraz is. And now France is going to reopen it because the cool part is it's not in France. You get to take these people out of France, send them to French Guiana in the jungles of South America, and let them live out a horrific. I mean, that looks like an absolute hellhole. It looks worse than it looks way worse than Alcatraz. But they have to, it's going to take a couple of years. They're talking about 2028. They're going to have to put money into it. It's been sitting there. So I like it. You know, Trump's a trendsetter. Why wouldn't countries do this? Let's have prisons away from your population. There's nobody on Alcatraz but the prisoners out there. There's no Americans in El Salvador. Put the prisoners there. Let's go. Let's find all these places. I love it. It's good stuff. All right, to the phones we go. We're checking in with John today in Independence, Missouri. Hello, John. How are you, sir?
You mentioned Devil's Island. They just got to make sure that the prisoners don't get hold of coconuts to build a raft.
Right. That's how the movie ended, right? He escaped. Steve McQueen's character escaped.
He got away on a raft made of coconuts.
Yeah.
Hey, I was just calling about this budget thing that's been going on. If they need to cut at least $2 trillion to try to make some effort to balance the budget, because until they do that, that's just going to keep growing and growing and growing with the debt.
I don't disagree with you, and I think they should cut more. I just saw Mike Johnson during the commercial break. I turned it on. He was live, and he said they've cut $1.5 trillion in this bill. Now, I don't know if that. I don't think that's annually. I think that's over a course of time, right? It's going to be several $100 billion over a number of years equals $1.5 trillion. If it's $1.5 trillion a year, I can live with that. That'd be great. But I don't think that's what they did.
No, it's smoke and mirrors, dog and pony show. They say stuff to make people seem like they're getting stuff done, but they're not. It's more of the same.
It is. Here's the problem.
And
it's a narrow margin, and if you cut, you're going to have a whole bunch of people vote against it. They don't want stuff cut from their state. There's a fundamental problem with our democracy. We all understand what it is. You've got to appease everyone here. And spending is it. It's hard to cut spending because you can't get the votes.
It's like being addicted to crack, I guess.
The only way, if we really want to place blame, and I'm with you, it's frustrating. These politicians are frustrating. The blame is on the American voter. This can be done, but we need like an 80% Republican majority. If we do that in this country, if we get rid of, if we just reduce the Democrat Party to a second tier, non-existent, they can't affect anything party, we can get all of this done. But
they're working towards that with the way they're acting. I mean,
they are.
They're embracing criminals that don't belong here, among a whole bunch of other stuff. So just let them, give them enough rope. Maybe they'll hang themselves.
Well, there's not going to be any votes yes on this big, beautiful bill from the Democrat side. They're going to make it as hard as they can for Republicans to pass anything, and especially when they see that it works. That's the last thing Democrats want, is this to pass and Trump to have a successful presidency. This will be great for the economy. I think the stock market will react wildly in a positive fashion. There's just a lot of good here. There's a lot of common sense. There are lower taxes. It makes them permanent. There's no taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Security. There's 1.4 million illegal aliens getting kicked off Medicaid here. There's a lot of cool stuff in this bill. And if it works the way Trump thinks, I think he believes with that and tariffs that the revenue is going to go up so high that they're going to actually be, like, we made a profit in April. We had a $268 billion surplus in April at the federal government. I still haven't figured out if that's normal, if that's because it's April and people are paying their taxes. I don't know. But there was a surplus in April. That's really all that matters, is we get to a point where we're taking in more than we're spending. And if lowering taxes creates more revenue for the federal treasury, which it typically does, that's another way that we can balance the budget or reduce the deficit. It doesn't all have to be in cutting spending. If we just freeze spending for 10 years, I think we'd be there. We could fix the whole thing if we just froze spending for 10 years and don't do raises on everything. But we can't do that either.
You hit a point, though, is when you mentioned tariffs. That's the part of this that I forgot about. If he can get the money coming in with the tariffs and try to have the cuts, that the two may offset each other to where it might actually work out.
Yeah, I mean, it would be aggressive, but if you could bring $1 trillion in tariffs and $1 trillion in new income taxes by lowering taxes for people, that'd be a pretty neat trick. And you could see yourself whittling away the budget. He says he's going to do it, and he says he wanted to start this sovereign wealth fund. He's changed his mind now and said, no, we have to pay off the deficit first, then we can do a sovereign wealth fund. Like, he's walking around like this is happening. We're going to be under budget. We're going to cut the deficit every year. That's going to happen. He believes this. I don't see it, but I haven't read every little nook and cranny of the big, beautiful bill. I hear people saying it's not cutting enough spending to fix the deficit. But Trump he is dead sure that he's going to be reducing the deficit by a couple $1 trillion every year, and that half of it's going to go to deficit reduction and half of it will go to the growth fund. That's what he initially started doing. Now he's saying all of it goes to deficit reduction. So he's very serious about it, and we got to give the man credit. Most of what he said he's going to do, he's done, and he's been right way more often than not. Let's hope he's right on this one.
Yep. All right. Take care, Jeff.
Okay, great call, buddy. Appreciate that. That's an excellent call. We appreciate John in Independence for calling in on that one, and I think they can. I think they can do that. We'll just have to see how all the money shakes out. I don't know. I do know this. There are things in this bill we just have to have. We can't have the taxes being raised in September, which is essentially what would happen. If they don't pass a tax bill making these tax cuts permanent and adding new tax cuts, then the taxes are going up and we're a sinking ship at that point. That would be disastrous for the economy. So there's a lot of things in there good for the economy. It's not perfect. No bill's going to be perfect. The only way to get the perfect bill for what you want and what I want is for Americans to vote better. We can blame the politicians, but when our country sends a margin, what's the margin now? 5 in the House? They got a margin of 4 or 5 Congress members in the House on the Republican side. That's not enough. They need like a 50-seat majority. Then you can go in there with a shredder. You can take Elon Musk's chainsaw out there and just go do whatever you want if you get that kind of majority. But we don't have that. We don't vote that way. We have too many liberal places where they keep sending the tax and spend liberals in there to wreck things. So blame the Republicans all you want. We need more Republicans. That's on us. Look yourself in the mirror and say, what am I doing to teach more people how to vote for good things in our country, to be involved, to understand why we have a deficit and what the problems are and who can fix it. There's really only one party that can solve the big problems in America because the other party's creating those problems. That's exactly what happens. This is typical mom and dad stuff. A lot of parents, you can call it good cop, bad cop, but a lot of parents raise kids, and one parent will give ice cream and candy to their kid all day long, and the other parent's very strict about not doing it, and they don't see eye to eye. Well, you see how this goes. The kid loves it's like I got a dog. It's the same way. You give your dog enough treats, he'll love you all day long. It's just the way it works. We've got an electorate out here conditioned to eating donuts, ice cream, and candy every day that the Democrats hand out to them. They're big, they're fat, they're lazy, but they're addicted to the sugar. They can't get off of it. That's our real problem. Not always just the people on the Republican side that can't seem to get things passed. Mark Van Sickle is our producer and engineer extraordinaire here at Uncanceled, and your name came up yesterday at the National, Mark.
Oh, really?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
Everybody that knows my circle of friends will know which friend of mine had a senior moment yesterday because he was one of the guys playing on our group, and he walked up. They had the breakfast sandwiches sitting out there and met Mark Delatour from Best Offer KC. And he said, he looked at Mark and he goes, man, I love your commercials. Your voice is so great. And, he's got the Kiwi accent. He's originally from New Zealand. He's American now, great Kansas Cityan. And he's just got that great voice. And the spots are excellent. And he's talking to him about it. And we finish. We grab our sandwiches or whatever. We go down. We're sitting down where I had the broadcast stuff set up. And we're sitting around talking. And he goes, and my friend, who I'm not going to out him here, but everybody that knows my circle, you know who this is. He's across the table from me. And my other buddy Cato's there. And Mark. And this dude says across the table, oh, so this is your engineer and your board op. I'm like, what? He says, Mark, this is your engineer. I said, no, this is Mark from Best Offer. He goes, oh, that's right. He had just talked to him about it and thought it was you.
bestofferkc.com.
There you go.
There you go. I could be both.
I think that maybe is a little more Australian than New Zealand.
Yeah, that was a little too,
Australian,
I need to
Kiwi.
work on that.
It was such an uncomfortable moment, and I felt bad for him because he didn't mean to buy it. But the other thing was he had heard me on the headset earlier when I first connected asking if you were there. And the other Mark wasn't there yet. You hadn't punched me up yet down the line. So he had heard me do that. So I think the whole thing was probably confused. It's broadcasting. Of course it's confusing.
Of course.
My mom is the smartest Royals fan in Kansas City, yes or no?
I mean, she probably has the most wealth and knowledge of their history, so I would say yes.
I'm going to say she's seen the most pitches this year of any Royals fan.
Yeah.
She's seen them all. What did she say to me 6 weeks ago? Kevin, Cole Reagans is not our ace. Chris Bubich is.
That's right.
She said it, and I said, Mom, hang on. It's like 4 starts. Let's just take a break here. The dude is unstoppable. 1.47 earned run average, 7 scoreless last night. Essentially took a no-hitter into the 7th inning. That's crazy. Did you know that the pitcher for the Giants last night, this was his 10th start. In his previous 9 starts, the Giants were 9-0.
Oh, wow.
Nobody's beaten the Giants. Ray is his last name, right? Is Robbie Ray?
Robbie Ray, yeah.
Nobody's beaten them this year when he started. And the Royals won last night 3-1 because Chris Bubich is better than that.
That's incredible.
How did this happen?
That's a great question. He was solid before he got hurt a few years ago, and then they put him in the bullpen last year. Just great foresight from the management to put him back in the starting rotation.
I think we need to conference call at the end of the show my mom every day and get Mark Van Parley's board up. Open your app and see what she's got to say.
I like that.
She'd probably be good at it. She has a ticket from Hollywood Casino for the Royals to win the division. And I would say there's a shot, except did you know Detroit has the best record in Major League Baseball?
I did know that. I peeked at it yesterday.
31-17. Mm-hmm. Best record in all of baseball. So the Royals probably playing for a wild card. I mean, Detroit looks legit to me. They pitch as well as the Royals, but they don't hit like the Royals.
Yeah.
They actually hit, which is nice. Did you see this? The Chiefs have a new power couple. It's not Travis and Taylor. It's not Patrick and Brittany.
Really?
Gracie Hunt has a new boyfriend.
Oh, I have seen that, yeah.
Tell everybody who it is. Do you know?
I don't know who it is.
Oh.
I've just seen the articles.
Oh. His name is Derek. It's Trent Green's son.
Oh, okay.
What?
Okay.
Power couple. He played at SMU, right? Football player. So I got a great Trent and Derek Green story. Me and my mom and my wife, 15 years ago, had 6 tickets from the radio station to the Royals wild card game, the famous wild card game.
Yeah.
And
14.
the other 3 were Trent Green, Derek, and his friend. And we watched the wild card game with them. It was a wild night, but a great kid. And now if he just buys a ring and gets on a knee, he's going to be a billionaire.
Let's go.
I mean, that's a plan right there. I'm sure, knowing the Trent and Julie Green and how awesome they are, like these are some of the best people you could ever meet. I'm going to guess Derek is about as fine. You would want your daughter to marry him.
Yeah, it's true love. It's not money here.
Pretty sure that he's absolutely the guy. The NFL has invited Taylor Swift to the Thanksgiving Day game. The lowly Giants and awful Cowboys last year played on Thanksgiving Day. It was the highest rated game of the year. 42.1 million viewers. They want Taylor Swift there, but I didn't see if they're asking her to perform because they have music on Thanksgiving, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't do that, but maybe that's got me to thinking. She's never done the Super Bowl, right?
No.
What are they waiting on?
I think that they asked her, but she declined a couple years ago.
Because it's a pay cut?
I don't know.
It doesn't pay as much.
That's true.
When I covered the Chiefs for Channel 4 back in the 90s, Derek Thomas used to complain all the time about the playoffs because he took a pay cut. I'm making $13,000 this week is all, he'd say. This week. It might have been a little more than that, but it wasn't much. He was complaining that he had a big contract. I got to go out there. I could blow my knee out. I'm taking a pay cut to go do this. I'm like, Derek, it's the playoffs, man. We had a radio show together for several years. This is the playoffs. Go play. He says, yeah, I guess I better. And he did. He was never short of energy on the field. That's Uncanceled. The Vince Show is coming up next.